Some events in history were never solved, not because they were forgotten, but because no one has ever been able to fully explain them. Every case in this video is real, documented, and still officially unresolved. And the deeper you go into them, the less the answers make sense. Some of these cases are not legends, they are official investigations that ended without conclusions, and they still disturb investigators today. 1. Dyatlov Pass Incident. In January 1959, 9 experienced hikers from the Ural Polytechnic Institute set out into the Ural Mountains in the Soviet Union. They were not beginners. They were trained mountaineers who had survived extreme expeditions before. Their destination was a remote mountain region known for harsh weather conditions. The goal was simple: reach the peak and return within a few days. But something went wrong. They never came back. After they failed to report back, search teams were sent into the mountains. Weeks passed before they found their campsite. What they discovered immediately raised questions. The tent was still standing, but it had been cut open from the inside, not torn by wind, not destroyed by an avalanche, but sliced open from within as if the group had desperately escaped something in seconds. Inside the tent, everything was still there. Clothes, food, equipment, nothing stolen, nothing missing. Then came the footprints. The tracks led away from the tent into deep snow and freezing temperatures near minus 30 degrees Celsius. What made it even more disturbing was the condition. The hikers were barefoot or wearing only socks. Some had no jackets, no boots, no survival gear at all. They walked away from shelter into certain death. As investigators followed the trail, the bodies were discovered one by one across the mountainside. The position suggested panic and disorientation, but not a clear direction of escape. Some victims were found under trees, others near frozen forest edges, and some far from the original campsite. The injuries made the case even more confusing. Some had severe internal trauma similar to a high-speed car crash, but with almost no external wounds. One victim had a crushed skull, another had multiple broken ribs that required extreme force far beyond what a human struggle would cause. But their skin showed no major external damage. 2 victims were found with missing soft tissue, including parts of the tongue and lips, and one case showed unusual traces of radiation on clothing samples. The official Soviet investigation concluded that an unknown compelling natural force caused the deaths, but no specific explanation was ever confirmed. No avalanche pattern matched the scene. No military test was officially acknowledged. No weather event fully explained the injuries. Even today, the Dyatlov Pass incident remains one of the most heavily studied and still unresolved cases in modern history. 2. The Taos Hum. In the small desert town of Taos in New Mexico, something unusual began to emerge in the late 20th century. Residents started reporting a strange sound, not loud, not rhythmic, a low-frequency humming that seemed to exist in the background of reality itself. But what made it strange was not just the sound itself, but who could hear it. Some residents reported it clearly, while others in the same area heard nothing at all. Scientists began investigating the phenomenon multiple times, checking every possible source. Industrial equipment nearby, power lines, underground vibration, seismic activity, atmospheric interference, even psychological explanations were considered. But no definitive source was ever identified. No device could reliably detect it. No instrument could consistently measure it. Yet the reports continued. Some people described it as a constant pressure in the ears, or a vibration felt more in the body than heard with the ears. For some, it became so persistent that it caused sleep disturbances, headaches, and eventually forced them to leave the town entirely. What makes the Taos Hum case unique is not just the sound, but the fact that despite decades of investigation, no physical origin has ever been confirmed. It exists only through perception, but not through measurable cause. 3. Project Stargate. During the Cold War, U.S. intelligence agencies funded unusual research programs, one of them later known as Project Stargate. The goal was remote viewing, the ability to describe distant locations without being physically present. Participants were placed in controlled environments and asked to describe unknown targets. Some of the results appeared surprisingly accurate, describing military sites, buildings, and locations that were later confirmed to exist. But other results were inconsistent or completely incorrect. The program remained classified for years until declassified documents confirmed its existence. The key question was never fully answered. Did it actually produce reliable intelligence, or were the results coincidence, interpretation, or bias? The program was eventually shut down, but parts of the research are still debated today. 4. The Philadelphia Experiment in 1943. A naval story emerged involving a U.S. Navy ship and an alleged experiment with electromagnetic fields. According to accounts, the goal was to reduce visibility, possibly even make the ship invisible. Witnesses claim that during the test, a green glow surrounded the ship, followed by distortion in visibility, and then complete disappearance. Even more disturbing are claims that the ship later reappeared in a damaged state, with crew members experiencing severe physical and psychological effects. The U.S. Navy has repeatedly denied that such an experiment ever took place, and no official records confirm the event as described. But references to similar research in electromagnetic studies have kept the story alive, leaving it in a strange position, neither proven nor fully dismissed. 5. Tunguska Event. On June 30, 1908, a massive explosion occurred over a remote region of Siberia. It flattened over 2,000 square kilometers of forest, with trees knocked down in a radial pattern, as if something had exploded in the sky above the ground. But when scientists later reached the site, they found something unusual. There was no crater and no confirmed impact debris at the center of the explosion. Expeditions proposed several explanations, including a meteor that exploded in the atmosphere, a natural gas release, or an unknown cosmic event, but none fully explained all evidence. Even today, the Tunguska event remains one of the most studied and unresolved explosion events in modern science. 6. The Isdal Woman case. In November 1970, a body was discovered in the Isdalen Valley near Bergen in Norway. The location was remote, cold, and difficult to access. The woman was found lying on her back, partially burned, with no identification on her body. At first, investigators assumed it might be a simple accident or suicide, but very quickly the case became unusual. When police examined the surrounding area, they found 2 suitcases hidden nearby. Inside were wigs, clothing with all labels removed, multiple passports under different names, and handwritten notes that seemed to track her movements across Europe. Hotel records later revealed that she had stayed in several countries under different identities, often paying in cash and checking in quietly without leaving clear personal information. Even her teeth had been altered in a way that made identification more difficult, suggesting deliberate attempts to erase her identity. What made the case even more confusing was the lack of a clear life story. No one could confidently confirm who she was or where she came from, despite extensive international investigations. The official conclusion suggested possible suicide or unknown circumstances, but no final cause of death was ever confirmed. Even today, the Isdal woman remains unidentified, and her case is still considered one of Europe's most mysterious cold cases. 7. The Brenda Page case. In 1981, in Aberdeen, Scotland, a woman named Brenda Page disappeared under unclear circumstances. Brenda was a respected scientist living a normal professional life, with no known reason to suddenly vanish. She was last confirmed to be seen entering a vehicle, but after that moment, she disappeared completely. For a long time, there were no clear leads and no immediate explanation of what had happened. It was only later that her body was discovered in a remote area showing signs of violence, but by then, valuable time had already been lost. The investigation became complicated very quickly due to conflicting witness statements and a lack of reliable physical evidence. Several suspects were considered over time, but no immediate conviction could be made, and the case began to slow down as leads went cold. The timeline of her final hours could never be fully reconstructed, with certainty leaving major gaps in the investigation. Even years later, the case remained open in legal records and continues to be discussed in cold case reviews in the UK as one of the more complex unsolved disappearances of its time. Every case in this video has one thing in common. They were investigated, documented, and analyzed, and still no complete explanation exists. Maybe the truth is that not everything in history fits into clear answers. Some events remain open, not because they are myths, but because something is still missing. And until that missing piece is found, these stories will remain unsolved.